All right, so guys, the paperwork is done. What's going on, guys? Today's a very interesting day for us. I'm very excited. Could not sleep last night. But first of all, I hope you guys are staying blessed, staying inside with your family, actively doing your part in the social distancing that we got going on. But just like I said, I'm very excited. I could not sleep last night. Today, we are taking delivery of a Bobcat E32. It was on our wish list for a long time, but we finally got it. Dan the man is on his way, and I'll get to you guys whenever he gets here. She's here, guys. I'm stuck. I lost my shot. I wasn't paying attention. Battery wasn't even the GoPro. But she's here. We got off the truck. So she's here.
So we'll start in the back. So typically, we did talk about that track adjustment yesterday, if you recall. So, to tighten the track again, to spin the machine 90 degrees, put the boom down, lift the track off the ground. Make sure you have a gap between the roller and the top of the, not this part of the track, but there's some nubs right there.
Yeah.
It needs to be like about no more than 3/4 of an inch. If it starts to drop above that, then just loosen that bolt, the plate drops down, put the grease gun on it, give it a shot or two, and that'll tighten the track up.
Sounds good.
Don't make it too tight. Typical engine oil, it's just a dipstick. Good thing to check it every day. It just needs to show up in this, right in between those two lines. And the way a diesel engine is, even if you change the oil in a very short period of time, it turns black. So I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I just changed oil in that.
So that's actually not too bad there. But I mean, the level's just where it needs to be. What we do in a lot of cases when it comes time to change the engine oil is that, if you look, we write the date and then we put the hours on the filter.
Okay.
Same thing there. And then that way you kind of know when to do it. They recommend that the engine oil be changed in this every 250 hours. So the machine had just a little over 600 on it, I think it was. And we changed it in January, and the machine had, looks like 571. So you got all summer, to do with that. To check the hydraulic oil, the way you do that is that you take the bucket and you roll it out, and you take the arm and go out, and then take the boom and drop it down so it's like that. Leave the blade on the ground. When you do that, if you look in there, you can spy through here, you can see there's a tube there. So that tube shows you a green area. You can also do this to access it, but you don't. So lift this cover up, you have to lift the back door up. So if you're just doing a walk around, you can just peek through there, and as long as it shows up and it's in that range, you're good to go. But it's actually, the way it is now, it's close to the very full mark, because as soon as we do this and do that, that's going to collapse those cylinders and it'll push the oil up. So it's probably going to end up in here.
Okay.
So you're okay. If you put too much oil in, this is actually a breather cap, and where the hydraulic oil goes in, excuse me, that's it'll start to burp oil out of there and leak down.
All right.
So batteries on this side over here. This is the hydraulic filter. Obviously it's clean, much cleaner than the rest of the machine is. I'm sorry about that. This has been just recently replaced also, so you're good to go there.
Sounds good.
Just put a lock on that. And when you close this little latch can be somewhat finicky. That one works good, but you have to be careful, because if that doesn't latch down and you tow it backwards the way I did, the wind can get in there and rip that cover off, so be careful. That's the fuel filter, and then the air filter is here. Fuel filter, you just want to keep good clean fuel in it. When you need to replace that, that's what this little primer bulb is for. It does two things. If you would run the machine out of fuel, it will help you prime fuel up into the engine so that it will start and run. If this starts to run out of fuel don't keep trying to run it. In other words, if you completely drain it, it makes it real difficult to get the air out of the system.
All right.
So you would put fuel in it, and you would prime this until it got hard, and then the machine will start and run just fine. When you put a new fuel filter on, you just take a brand new clean filter and you screw it on, and that little brass bleeder there, you put a screwdriver in there and loosen that up. And when you do that, then you'll start priming this, and this will push the fuel up and fill this filter up till it starts to piss out of there. When it starts pissing out of there, there's no bubbles, close it off, fuel filter's changed, away you go. There's no air in the system, it's real simple to do. If the thing starts running rough or wants to die out or whatever, you probably got a bad load of fuel. 95% of the time you change the fuel filter, you're good to go, you can run, no problem. So,
Perfect.
any questions on that?
Nope, not at all.
Now what type of coolant it takes?
This uses, I usually put a sticker, yeah, the sticker's right there. It's called propylene glycol. So that's a little different than the green stuff that you're used to seeing years ago. That was ethylene glycol. Propylene glycol is a little more environmentally friendly. It's not as toxic to animals if they drink it. And it needs to be a 50-50 mixture, half antifreeze, half water. If you look at most cars nowadays use propylene also, because this uses a lot of aluminum components where ethylene would create corrosion. Propylene doesn't really do that as much. So if you bought it from Bobcat, it comes in a gallon jug and it's already mixed 50-50. You don't ever want to put straight antifreeze in it, but it is called propylene glycol. It's listed right there.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope. No.
Good.
No.
Okay. That same key will lock this door, which will also keep people out of here, because you can't open this up until this back door is open. Same thing, track tension there. On the grease end of it, any place you see a pin or a pivot point, you're going to find a grease fitting. So, you know, these parts in here, it's pretty critical you do that at least once a day. You know, even this one here, either end of the cylinder, and then up in here as well. This boom pivot has a couple there. This one's been, sometimes it's good that they're not pressure washed, because with all that grease around those points, you can see where it needs to be taken care of. This is for the house rotation. This is called the house. So that lubricates a gear in a ring that makes this thing pivot. So if you look on there, it actually shows 50. So you don't need to do that every 10 hours. This is every 50 hours.
Every 50 hours.
And when you do it, you're going to shoot about 6 pumps of grease in each one of those. Then you're going to turn the machine 90 degrees, pump 6 more turns in it, spin it again 90 degrees, pump more. You're going to do that 4 times.
Okay.
That way it lubricates. It's a big ring. It lubricates sections all the way around it. And that's every 50 hours, so that's not all that big of a deal. But you know, using a regular grease gun on that end of things there, you'll burn up a lot of grease, but it's cheaper than replacing pins and bushings. So, we went over how to disconnect the bucket.
Yep.
With that bucket release. I put that locking fuel cap on
Yep.
there.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You know, this has the headlight button. You push that once and then the 2 lights will come on, the boom light and this body light. This button here is for automatic idle. So that dial up there is the throttle, as you know. But when you have that button pushed and there's be a little green light up on the edge of the button, it will automatically idle down. So when you're in the machine and you're not using it for 4 seconds, the machine will throttle down.
Yeah, I
no matter
noticed
where
that.
you have
That
it
was,
set.
I like that. Yeah.
As soon as you grab a feature, it'll go right back up to where you had the throttle set.
Mhm.
If you don't like that for some reason or another, most people do, you push that button and then you have to manually throttle it down and throttle it up.
Yeah, I like the automatic.
We talked about that auxiliary relief button, if you recall.
Yeah.
You know, so that comes on, when it's pushed, it's on automatically. So, meaning that, so let's say the key's on or the machine's running, as long as that button's been pushed, as soon as you drop this console, the green light comes on.
Yep.
Is it on? I can't see that.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
It's on.
So then the auxiliaries are live, which means that thumb is how you operate the thumb. Also, we talked about bleeding off the hydraulic
Yep.
pressure. This is when you want to do it when the machine is not running, the key is on, and this console is down. That green light needs to be on. This is what will relieve the pressure.
Okay.
As soon as you lift this up, the auxiliaries go off, all the controls are dead. You can't accidentally hit something and get hurt when you're getting on and off the machine.
So this switch is for what?
That switch is for the automatic bucket release.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It shows
okay.
a lock and an unlock.
Okay.
So when you put it on unlock, that's what draws these two pins in, and that's how you get the bucket off.
Okay.
Before you had to take a pin and
Right.
knock it out.
We got a couple
Right,
experience with
right,
that.
Yep.
I know one of my main things was that pressure thing.
Yes.
'Cause sometimes they
A real pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep. In fact, let me make sure that's when you push that button, you can hear the valve opening up. Okay, that's good. So, what that tells me, there's a thing called an accumulator valve in there. It almost looks like a toilet tank ball is what it looks like, you know, the float. And if that goes bad, that screws up that auxiliary relief. But that's all working in this machine. So, not saying that, you know, after you use that breaker and it gets hot, it can still be tough. Even though you go through that procedure, it can still be tough to hook it up sometimes. It's just, those are called dripless couplers, and they do that for environmental purposes, and unfortunately it makes it difficult to hook them on and off sometimes.
Now that little key that you gave us, right?
Yep.
For the hammer.
Okay.
Right. Can it be used like to push against here to relieve it? You know to take them off.
So what key are you talking about?
I'll show you.
Oh, no. I know what you're talking about. No,
Okay.
that's not what that's for.
Okay.
No, that's not it. Nope.
Just going to get a screwdriver.
Yeah, it's either that or you crack a line, but you shouldn't. If you go through that procedure, you should be okay.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I was saying, Cody, if you recall, especially when you go to disconnect the thumb now, you know, you're better off to have the boom arm in the butt, you know, down like this. So when you relieve the pressure, the thumb will kind of fall back on itself and then strap it up. And then now that you've relieved the pressure in the machine, and you've already done that in the breaker, supposedly, the breaker should hook right up to it.
Yep.
In the bottom fitting first. In worst case scenario, what I have done is if sometimes the bottom fitting will go on, but the top is really hard to do. So worst case scenario is you hook the bottom one up, get in the machine, and do the same thing while the other guy pushes the top fitting on, and sometimes that will help you get it pushed on.
All right.
Now on the skid loader, it's a little different. Those fittings on the skid loader, those are under a spring-loaded release. So as soon as you push into it,
Right.
it's automatically manually bleeding it off. It makes it a lot easier to disconnect and connect
Right.
to that. They offer that option to put on these machines. I haven't done it yet, but they've had enough people complain about, if you don't go through that procedure, it's not going to hook up easily. You have to just fight it.
Right.
It's either,
Right,
either
right,
that or you
trying to
crack
fight it.
either that or you crack the line, like I said.
Right.
Yeah, we did that before.
You cracked the line before?
Oh, we fought it before.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
see, as soon as you crack the line, a little oil's going to blow out. As soon as you do that, it'll snap together like nothing.
Okay.
So. You know the yellow button on here is the 2-speed.
Yep.
This thing has the float position for the blade.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Okay, so if you push this forward and it stays like that, that blade will kind of float up and down.
Okay.
It's really only used for back dragging. Because if you go forward, the way that blade is shaped, it'll just suck it into the ground.
Right. Yeah, okay, I didn't know it had
Yeah,
that.
so when you go to want to just back drag some gravel, it's pretty nice.
All
to
right.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely use that.
That's kind of my spiel. I can't think of anything else unless you have any
We heard Dan,
questions.
so I'll get back with you guys whenever everything's done. All right, so guys, the paperwork's done. Signed off on her. What's up? Yep, so we're about to sanitize it. She's right here, she's beautiful. Dan left off. It's a very good moment, you know. We dug a lot of trenches by hand and everything like that, so to have a piece of equipment like this is honestly a blessing. We got a skid steer, but sometimes there's really just places that skid steer can't get to, and we, just like I said, we're blessed to have work just to be able to utilize this machine, and we honestly just have a space for it in our fleet. So there she is, guys. We're going to sanitize it, get her cleaned up, probably use her in the back a little bit just to get a better feel for her. And I guess we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a blessed day.
When I had you to myself, I didn't want you around. Those pretty faces always made you stand out in a crowd. But someone picked you from the bunch.